Denver Broncos Mile High View, no commercials, and as always, no bullshit. All right, so Chris Harris Jr. is sitting it out. This brings up a question. And he's not holding out, he's sitting out. It's not, there's a difference. But it brings up a question. It brings up this question. What would Pat Bowlen do in a situation like this? And this question goes beyond just Chris Harris. I've been questioning a lot of decisions being made at the Brain Trust at Dove Valley, literally the trust. And it just seems to me that Pat Bowlen would be handling things different. And I go back to looking at how what was it, the guy Watson brought in that they wasted money on, Menelik Watson, something, or is it Menelik? I don't know. The Watson character that Elway brought in on the offensive line, they just basically threw money at him and showed him the door. The bringing in of Paxton Lynch, the handling of that, and bringing in Case Keenum, trying to make him a pocket quarterback. Just all this mismanagement that has been going on. Not retaining players. How would Pat Bowlen have handled all this? What would he put up with having his money thrown around and wasted? I think it's a legitimate question, and I think it's something that fans really need to ask with this trust. Is this the way Pat Bowlen would be handling business? You got Chris Harris Jr. I'm certain they'll probably retain him. I mean, Chris Harris Jr. basically has him by the short hairs because they really can't afford to lose him. It'd be ridiculous. So, you got to, trade him for what, So, and they're going to hold off until, I don't know why, what the draft has to do with anything. I mean, you're going to draft a corner and then replace somebody like Chris Harris Jr. It's just not going to happen. It just doesn't work like that. I mean, you can, but, you're going to pay the price for it. You're going to pay the price either way. Either pay him or you're going to burn down the field. I already said in my other videos that if I was going to attack the Broncos, it'd probably be the deep ball, because I'm not 100% that they could stop that. So anyway, what would Pat Bowlen do, in a situation like this? What would Pat Bowlen do with all this quarterback chatter? Would he have brought in Flacco, or would he groom a quarterback, for the future? That's a legitimate question. So I think moving forward, fans should say, well, what would Pat Bowlen do? Because I think Pat Bowlen certainly deserved his Hall of Fame. And I think he was a great owner. And but I think that people really have taken that for granted. What kind of a leader an owner brings to the team. So, the caliber of Pat Bowlen. So I just don't think the trust nowhere near compares to what it takes to be an owner to keep everybody in line and make the right decisions. And I just want to say, again, the Cutler thing, I think that to me was, and firing Mike Shanahan personally, I thought Mike Shanahan really should have been fired after they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a completely mismanaged game. It was a complete asinine game plan, and it really was showing where Mike Shanahan was losing it as a coach. This idea of bringing him back in is just, absurd. And again, it goes back to idiot sports talk radio people and their love affair, and just, throwing, facts be damned. There's a reason why now there's a reason why now you can't find a job, you know. It's definitely time to move on. So, you know, Pat Bowlen made that decision, and everybody was shocked. I'm like, that was the decision that should have been made. I should have had a program a long time ago. And then Jay Cutler was shopping teams. This is before Josh McDaniel was even hired. His agent was shopping teams because he was pissed off at the firing of Mike Shanahan, making demands that he wanted player personnel decision. And Pat Bowlen, I could read the report to you that Pat Bowlen just said, "You're a quarterback. You're not a GM or a coach, or you're a quarterback. You can't be demanding." And then when one of his demands going to Chicago was that he had player personnel decisions, and look what happened there. It just was a disaster. Pat Bowlen had his act together. He knew, sometimes the unpopular decision is the logical and right decision. So, you got this trust, and I don't trust the trust. I think that the question, what would Pat Bowlen do, should be brought up more and more by fans. And of course, you don't hear this at sports talk radio. You don't. So that's the question, and we're going to get answers, at each time some boneheaded trust decision backfires.